Namaste. Hi, Stephanie.
Namaste. Good to see you.
Welcome to YouTube.
Thank you.
So, Stephanie is joining us from Amsterdam, and she has a challenging Dutch last name to pronounce. Please say your whole name for us.
De Rooij.
Okay. And I'm Lizzie Lasater. So today, Stephanie reached out and wanted to ask me a few questions for her 300-hour yoga teacher training project. Brava. Welcome to our mad club of yoga teachers. So I thought it would be great to just record it and share it with you all, because the questions are really things that I hear from students all the time, and they're so essential. What we're going to be talking about today, busyness and stress and our urban lives, because I just got back from teaching a retreat in Spain. You know, it's so easy when you're in retreat la land. That's why, you know, people have built monasteries in every religious tradition to go away. But the real question, which I think you're going to be asking me today, is how do we integrate the practices of yoga and meditation into the nitty-gritty reality of our scary urban lives?
Yeah. It's something I think we indeed all cope with. The whole urban busyness. And yoga is such a beautiful practice, but sometimes so hard to maintain off the mat.
Exactly. So what's your first question?
Yeah, my first question is actually what busy feels like to you, or what busy is.
Yeah. So I think busyness is a kind of addiction that we have. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like something that there's an acceleration to it, and there's a kind of thrill in it. I even know before our call today, you know, I did too many things this afternoon, and I was on another call, and I should have said, I need to get off this call now so I have enough time to take a bath and prepare for my next call. I wanted to wash my hair and be ready for you, but I didn't. You know, I sort of saw that it was time to get off the phone, and I just kept talking, and then I jumped into the bath and rushed out and texted you, can I, you know, be 15 minutes late? It's like a kind of trying. I think it comes from a place of wanting to get a lot out of life. You know, and we do have, you know, this phrase FOMO, fear of missing out. That's a kind of common human sentiment. So that's what I feel busyness as. I also feel it as a sort of, in terms of a physical sensation, to me it feels like a lack of grounding. Like I can no longer, when I get really busy, I can no longer find my first chakra. Like I can't like get down. Yeah. Get down to the earth. In terms of this kind of addiction, which is a strong word, or sickness, I would even say, this sickness of our time, I think it's very connected. Busyness is very connected with distraction, which the human mind loves and has always loved. It's just in previous times we hadn't developed so many great ways of distracting ourselves. But, you know, even 50 years ago, India, for example, I know was the most, the country in the world with the most newspapers and most most hours of newspapers read per day, paper newspapers, which is of course a form of distraction, you know, to be reading. So we had, you know, we used to have newspapers, now we have our phones. So I think it's, to me, busyness is also a kind of, it feels good to say we're busy. I think we have to acknowledge the things we do in our lives that we don't like acknowledge the good that we get out of them, as opposed to just saying like, I'm going to quit smoking cigarettes, and, you know, admit like what it is we like about smoking or what the joy is and the pleasure. So there is a certain joy in busyness. People love, and I know that people like it and that we get a joy out of it because we love to tell everybody how busy we are. Like, I am so busy. I am so busy.
And we love those challenges. Like, we're busy.
Yeah, and I think what I like to talk about, especially in relationship with restorative yoga, which you know that I teach, is this idea of what I call the inner Protestant voice. And it's not a religion. It doesn't matter if you were raised with some other religion, but I think we all sort of have it. It's that voice inside your head that says you're lazy, says you're not doing enough, says your apartment is not clean enough, you haven't exercised enough this week, you desperately need to give yourself a manicure, you know, your email inbox is too full, it's this kind of voice, whatever. I mean, everyone has we have our different obsessions, but you know, the things that we believe that we need to do that are often left undone and will always be left undone. I mean, you're basically always going to have an email in your inbox.
So yeah, probably.
You know, I mean, my thing is like my apartment is never clean enough, and so I think this inner Protestant voice is something that we need to, that I have a big practice of sort of acknowledging it and being grateful to, you know, there's a part of my voice, those voices that I have, you know, helped me get straight A's in school. You know, has helped me achieve it, helps me have a wonderfully clean apartment. I mean, there are kind of positive side effects of it, but I think especially in relationship with rest, with consciously becoming less busy, with practicing restorative yoga, it really, because the problem is it doesn't look like you're doing anything when you lie down and take Shavasana for 20 minutes. So that inner Protestant voice that says you're so lazy, we need to give it a deep namaste, acknowledge it, and then turn the volume down and begin to reframe our relationship with rest. Because we are getting to a point, it's what I see from my students, especially you know, I'm 33, sort of me and younger, I'm the early end of the millennial, like the smartphone generation, people are incapable of resting.
Yeah, we never learned how to rest.
we don't know how to sit with any comfort in any amount of emptiness, and so it's like I think in order to reframe that inner Protestant voice, we need to frame rest as positive, as productive. You know?
What kind of tools did you learn your own Protestant mind to just be more quiet, or
you know, I mean, one thing, this is sort of next to answering your question, one thing I do with myself is that I write down, because I work from home and I'm self-employed, and so, you know, really I could just spend all day, like my days can get off track, right? There's no one here watching me, so I write down a very short list of the things that are important to get done in a day. And actually, I use this little format where I draw an X on a piece of paper. And then 2 of those things are work things. You know, like I want to write this newsletter and I want to, you know, plan this workshop.
Yeah.
And then 2 of the things on my X are for my body-mind. You know, and
nice.
I mean, I work in yoga, so I can consider that also part of my job, but I will say, like, one of them will be, all right, I want to meditate for 20 minutes. And one of them will be, I'm going to go for a walk, go for my hour-long hike walk that I like. You know, so it's like, and for me, I find it incredibly valuable. It's like a little contract with myself. Somehow writing it on a piece of paper is really... it's strong for me, and I do it, you know, because everything else in my work life is digital. I don't really have any paper in my office is just my table with my computer and my coffee, you know. So I don't, but then that will be like the piece of paper on my desk for that day. That's it.
Yeah, and it gives you focus, and like, yeah,
it keeps me focused, and it keeps me. I tend to have this spinning mind of like it's never enough. That's one of my lovely mantra. It's never enough. So I like to be specifically on purpose finite about because also had this great conversation with the woman who owns a studio where my mom and I teach in London, and she says she's been thinking a lot recently about how to set herself up to have a good day in terms of our crazy urban lives. And I think that being finite and specific is one of those things. To say, you know, like, when I do these 4 things, I'm going to say I've had a good day. You know, and not when I do these 40 things.
Which you never get done and feel shit about yourself.
Yeah.
And also, I think a lot of people take rest only when they finish their whole list.
Yeah.
So first I have to finish all these things and then I can have rest. Where, of course, also with restorative, it's like, it's also not to finish it, but maybe already plan it in, or... Yeah. How do you see?
Okay, so I just want to say, Stephanie, turn your computer or turn your body. I want to make sure you're in the middle. Yeah. You're drifting to the side. I don't want to lose you. Yeah, so I really do... What was I reading recently? I read something so fascinating about... I was reading about a meditation, but I can't quote it well enough, so I won't mention it. But for me, restorative has no longer become a luxury. And I realized that was an important shift for me.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, in mindset. I grew up in a yoga household. My mom, Judith Lasater, teaches yoga for 45 years, and she studied with Mr. Iyengar, and so it was always around, and I did it as a teenager a little bit with her at retreats and stuff, you know, in the summers, like, well, since I'm at this yoga retreat, I'll do a little. But funnily enough, I would always go to, starting, I don't know, age maybe 14, I would start going to the asana classes in the morning, but I would never go to the afternoon restorative classes. Because I feel like this is so boring. I'm going swimming, which is just so ironic that that's now the core of what I teach. But then when I went to university in Los Angeles, from age 19 to 23, I did Ashtanga. I got really into Ashtanga yoga, and that, as we know, is very masculine, very physically challenging, and feels like exercise. I mean, you're exhausted after you do, and I was practicing Ashtanga 4 or 5 days a week. So in that era, I had this realization that shifted my whole relationship to my practice, where I consciously started to decouple asana practice from exercise in my life. So in my Ashtanga years, they were really the same. And then the most wonderful thing happened. The most wonderful, awful thing happened. The most awful thing that turned wonderful happened was that my teacher moved away. And so I wasn't as excited about practicing Ashtanga anymore, because I realized I was really in love with her. So I shifted back into a home practice. And in that time, I was also discovering the idea of separating exercise from asana. And it allowed my home practice, which I still have today, to serve me and meet me where I am on that day, where my body is. Today I have my period, so my practice is not going to be handstands. It's not going to be chaturanga. It's going to be supported forward bends. It's going to be supta baddha konasana. And then to see exercise as a separate thing. Maybe sometimes my yoga practice will be so active that I'll sweat and I'll be tired from it, and it's enough. And then sometimes I will go for a mountain bike ride.
Yeah. Which is enough as well. Just to clear your head, getting to connect with your body again.
I'll tell you, Sunday, because yesterday was a holiday, so but Sunday my sweet husband went for a long ski tour with a friend of his, and it was very strenuous, so I was not invited to go with the boys. But it was a beautiful day, and so I decided, okay, maybe I'll take my bike for the first time. We live in a new place now in Salzburg, and there's a mountain right behind my apartment, so I thought, I'll just bike up the mountain, and I looked on Google, and it said 52 minutes from my apartment to the top of the mountain. I thought, 52 minutes, like, that's no problem. So I started biking, and I knew it was going to be steep, and it just was so long and so hard, and I was thinking, this has to be a lot, like, this 52 minutes should be pretty soon. Because I didn't look at my phone, but I just kept thinking like, wow, like this is so long, 52 minutes. And then, and finally by the time I got to the top, it had taken me 2 hours. I don't know what Google robot can get from my apartment to the top of this mountain. But anyway, but I
52 minutes.
Yeah, crazy. But I was thinking, actually, as I was biking, I was thinking of it consciously as pranayama. Like this is a pranayama practice. Like I'm really not thinking about anything else. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not talking. I'm not eating. I'm not texting. I'm not achieving. All I'm doing is pedaling and breathing.
Pedaling and breathing, yeah.
And then being passed by these, like guys, these guys in their outfits and stuff on their professional, triathlon. And I was just like, okay, this is. But it was good. It's good for me because I was like, okay, humility, and they're just passing me, I'm like, hi.
Yeah, but I think it's exactly this kind of full body presence which we need in order to like have a balanced life, or to get back to what it's really all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me. I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but for me, it's become a point where I don't feel that the yoga itself is it's not hard for me to practice. It's hard for me to remember to practice and to start. It's just, once I get on the mat, once I remember in time, now it's 10 till 6. I haven't done my practice today. My husband, we're talking, my husband's going to come home and dinner. So it's like, really, when we get off now, it's sort of like, I can't mess around on YouTube looking at some funny video. It's like, I need to get up because I need to remember, like, this is my window and be realistic. Like this, now I have 30 minutes of silence before my sweet, loud husband comes home. And then I'll want to be with him. And so I think we have to be a little bit tricky with ourselves about when we're busy, planning yoga into our lives and making the yoga match our lives. And that's why I think, especially for women, it's not a secret that the asana practice that many of us do today, that is derivative of Ashtanga, this kind of flow, power yoga, even to some extent Iyengar yoga, wasn't developed for women, right? So we've switched genders, we've switched continents. Now we're in Europe and the United States, where women who are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, but we're women who often have a lot of other things on our plate. We're paying the rent, we're raising children, we have marriages and houses and dogs and aging parents, and then we expect that we give ourselves this really exhausting practice, and and then we're like shocked when we're getting burnout, and the thing is, we're not choosing a practice that's feeding us.
No.
And one thing Mom likes to say is, don't confuse the familiar with the healthy. Just because it feels familiar to be exhausted doesn't mean that that's what's good for us. And so we're exhausted in our lives. Then we go to yoga. We choose this really strenuous type of asana practice. And then at the end, we lay down on the floor and do 3 minutes of shavasana and thank God it's over and feel exhausted. But that's not relaxation.
Super valuable. Wow, that's a beautiful one. Yeah.
So ask me, what's your last question? What would you like to know? What else can I offer you today?
I think the last question would be that we often hear we need to feel our limits or our borders. And that I wonder if you actually can feel them, because normally it's not for me if I go over my limit that I feel a bump and it's like, oh, that was it. And that I'm wondering but I get more and more, I'm noticing more and more that I fall into some sort of default state. That if I'm really tired, that I start eating more sugar, I start texting a lot. There's something happening, and I'm wondering if this is maybe when I cross my border. And my question to you would be, how do you feel when you crossed your border and when it's enough or when it's your limit?
So I'll tell you a funny story about myself. I like to be honest and share little stories from my life because I think I hope it encourages people to be, and I want to say that I'm right there with you all. You know, I'm living in this world. I have my phone, you know, I sleep with my phone like under my pillow. So for years, I'm a vegetarian, and I, like, by joy, not by force. I just grew up that way, and I just never really wanted to eat meat. And I naturally, you know, sort of like whole grains and, you know, a good feta cheese and olive oil. And I mean, so I don't know. I don't have to struggle to have what I find to be a pretty easy, healthy diet, except for I noticed for years, I would suddenly be standing in the checkout aisle at the grocery store, and I would like feel as though I was possessed by a demon, and I would be reaching down and buying a Snickers bar. And like there would be this voice in my head that's like, that's trans fats, and that's terrible oil, and like these peanuts are not organic, and like this is terrible for you. And I would just be like putting it on the thing and buying this Snickers bar once a month. And then like 2 days later I'd get my period, and it took me so long to put, I'd always be like so ashamed, you know, I'm like, I'm a yoga teacher, I just shouldn't be eating Snickers bar, it's the worst food on the planet, you know. And it's like, oh, this is beyond my control. This is not about me making a conscious choice. This is about a little hormonal demon that lives inside of me, and once a month needs to be offered a Snickers bar as like a sacred, loving offering. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, please take the Snickers bar. So I think that is, you know, that's like a kind of funny way of saying, you know, starting to notice what where I'm at my boundary, where I'm at my limit of, you know, no longer acting in my highest self. So for me, it has really helped. My partner and I have been together for almost 10 years, and he is quite sensitive, especially for a man. We don't always expect that. But he can really feel when I'm a little bit off. And so even when I haven't discovered it for myself, he'll often sort of be like, what's going on? You know, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not ready to say anything yet. So, but what it reveals to me is that one thing I feel when I reach my boundaries is a kind of crankiness. You know, I'm short with people. I'm really short with myself. You know, I'm disappointed in myself, or angry at myself, or upset at myself. I've also been noticing the degree to which in my life I'll notice something small that happens where I'll have a negative reaction to it. Could be, this happened this weekend. We were getting on the chairlift, and my husband teased me. He said, like, sort of whispered something into my ear that I didn't like, you know, like, and he was saying it in a sweet way, but it kind of like triggered me, and I kind of went, but we were skiing with his parents, so I didn't say anything, you know, but I would just kind of sat there on the lift steaming. And then when we got off, there was a chance, oh, should we ski this way or ski this way? And I got unusually upset about like my choice not being picked. And I realized it wasn't about my choice, that I was primed. Like I was pre-primed by this earlier interaction that the next thing I was going to shoot, you know? Yeah. So what I think it is about boundaries for me is like when our boundaries are not being honored, when we're not honoring our boundaries, we become defensive because we're so afraid of being encroached upon. Albeit that we feel like our time is being taken away, or we feel like, oh, there's a loss of control, that we become busy. I become busy defending my boundary. And in this space, there's absolutely no curiosity or interest or space for the other person.
You start getting smaller and smaller. Yeah.
And I become just really self-centered. It's like, because I'm so afraid that I'm not going to get my needs met, that I can't even formulate one drop of empathy for the other person. And that is, I love this definition that Mom has of empathy, is understanding independent of agreement. So I don't need to agree with you. I just need to understand you. And when I'm, you know, sort of struggling to maintain my boundaries, I don't even really have the ability to understand you, because I'm so busy here.
Yeah.
You know, there was one more thing I wanted to tell you. Oh, maybe this is a nice place to end. One of the dominant sort of diseases of our time and what we are dealing with in restorative yoga is stress. One of the ways in which restorative yoga works, I believe, is that it's not that it actually heals us. It's not that the yoga practices themselves are powerful. It's that the body and our nervous systems are so powerful. And when we give ourselves this space of deep relaxation where there are no external demands, where there's no need to be productive or to achieve or to text or write or eat or shop, or like all the distractions are gone, and all of our ability to either take input or to put out into the world, all of that is paused. I believe that the body has then the wisdom and it then evokes its own ability to heal itself. So it's like we take all the weight off and then the balloon can fill back up.
Beautiful.
And so that's what I think, that's what the relationship is for me between restorative yoga and stress. And the fundamental, something that Mom has started to say, which is it's so beautiful watching her. She's now 70, and watching her practice my whole life and seeing how her asana practice has shifted with age, and seeing really some of the lessons that, you know, she's a few years ahead of us, kind of out on this journey in life. And what she says is that fundamentally, if you distill them down, all of the practices and the state of yoga is about learning how to let go. And that's the embodiment of Shavasana. When we lie down, we let go of control, which is one of the huge illusions that we have that creates the feeling of stress. And the feeling of busyness is that we believe we are in control, or we should be in control. We need to control. And when we become better and better, and it really is a practice of letting go once a day, once a week, I believe that not only does that teach us something profound about our daily lives, about letting go of control and letting ourselves get in the flow a little bit more, and seeing ourselves as part of the whole, but I believe that it helps prepare us for the end of our lives, which is the ultimate moment when we need to let go. So I could not be a bigger fan of Shavasana and of restorative yoga. I think as a recovering busyness addict, I'm just so glad that it's moving out into the world, and I'm so glad.
Yeah. And that rest is becoming more popular and cool. It's more cooler now to be super good at resting than in being super good and being busy. Because it's too easy to be busy.
And it's good to remember Shavasana is hard. I think it's the hardest pose in yoga.
Yeah, to be completely quiet.
One of my very first restorative workshops that I ever taught, this very sweet man who I never saw again, but I projected onto him that he was this kind of banker, businessman type, you know, very, very wound up. He came to me after the class and he said, "Okay, yeah, I really liked it. You know, thanks so much. You know, good. This was so interesting. You know, just some advice for next time when you teach a restorative workshop. You know, maybe you should tell the students like what we're supposed to do with our mind, because like I didn't get that part. Like what, you know, like you showed a lot of the props in the body and like how I'm supposed to lie there, but you know, like what am I supposed to do with the mind?" Yes.
Yes. I like that. Thank you.
That is the question.
Yeah. Of all life.
That's it. But what about the mind? That's like, it's so beautiful. It's almost like a Zen koan or something. But what am I supposed to do with my mind? Like,
I wish it was that easy to just like give you some buttons to push. Now it's productive. Now it's quiet.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not like one of those fancy light switchboards where you can put the mood lighting on in your house for different settings.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good, like what you said, to notice yourself. Like when you're too busy or when you're short. Okay, I'm short.
Yeah.
I think I need to lie down. I can tell others I'm short.
Yeah. Well, it's been such a joy speaking with you, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing so many good and great insights about busy and what it does to you and feels. Thank you. And I think everybody will enjoy hearing it.
Tell me about you. Where can we find you? Do you have a website you want to share or an Instagram or something?
I think, yeah, you could find me with Love and Light Yoga. That's the name I teach under in Amsterdam. And yeah, I'll be rounding off my teacher training in June. Really looking forward to it. And I think this will be such a great help.
Okay, thank you so much. And I can find me at Lizzie Lasater on Instagram, where I'm posting the same photo every single day for hundreds of days. But I write something new, and the photo, I'm always in a different place when I do the same photo.
That's so great.
Okay, darling, namaste.
Namaste on being still.